Unveiling the hidden self, an introduction to the shadow. Imagine, if you will, a universe within each of us. Some traits shine brightly, others lurk in the shadows. This is the realm of the shadow self. It's a concept as old as humanity, yet relevant today. The shadow self represents parts we prefer not to see, traits we push deep into our subconscious. The less we acknowledge them, the more power they have. Understanding the shadow is about integration, becoming whole. This journey is necessary for true personal growth. Carl Jung's shadow theory, illuminating the darkness within. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist, introduced the concept of the shadow. He saw it as a fundamental part of the human psyche. Jung believed we all have a shadow side. It's not inherently evil. The shadow is a gateway to the collective unconscious. This part of our psyche connects us all. By exploring our shadows, we tap into collective wisdom. As children, we learn acceptable behaviors. Unacceptable parts get pushed into the shadow. Shadow work involves exploring our shadow side. It's about understanding and integrating them. We tap into hidden strengths and creativity. The unconscious puppeteer, how ignored traits control us. The shadow self is like an unseen puppeteer. It pulls strings we're not even aware of. When we ignore our darker traits, they don't simply disappear. They find other ways to express themselves. Often these expressions are destructive. They can sabotage our relationships and careers. Consider the person who prides themselves on always being nice. They may repress their anger and assertiveness, but these traits don't vanish. Instead, they might come out as passive-aggressive behavior, or they might lead to sudden outbursts of rage. The person feels out of control. They don't understand why they act this way. Projection is another way the shadow exerts control. We often see our own unacknowledged traits in others. We might be overly critical of someone's selfishness, all the while we're blind to our own selfish tendencies. This projection can poison our relationships. It creates conflicts based on misunderstandings. The more we try to suppress these traits, the stronger they become. It's like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. The harder we push, the more forcefully it pops back up. This is why simply trying to be good often backfires. True goodness comes from understanding and integrating all parts of ourselves. Shadows in action, real-life examples of inner struggles. Let's bring this concept down to earth with some real-life examples. Consider the story of John, a successful businessman. On the surface, he's confident and assertive, but he has a hidden fear of failure. This fear, part of his shadow, drives him to work excessively. It strains his relationships and health. Then there's Sarah, a kind-hearted volunteer. She's always helping others, but she struggles to accept help herself. Her shadow contains a deep-seated belief that she's unworthy of care. This leads to burnout and resentment, despite her outward generosity. Political leaders often provide stark examples of shadow dynamics. A politician might campaign on family values, yet they're later caught in an affair. Their repressed desires find expression in destructive ways. The very thing they fight against most vehemently often reveals their shadow. Artists, too, often grapple with their shadows in public view. Many comedians, for instance, struggle with depression. Their humor is a way of coping with darker emotions. By bringing these feelings to light through their art, they find a healthier form of expression. Section 5, the power of acknowledgement, facing our darker side. Acknowledging our shadow is not about wallowing in negativity, it's about honesty. It's about seeing ourselves clearly, warts and all. This acknowledgement is the first step towards integration. It's like turning on a light in a dark room. Suddenly we can see what we're dealing with. This process requires courage. It's not easy to face parts of ourselves we've long denied. We might feel shame, fear, or disgust. But these feelings are part of the journey. They're signposts pointing to areas that need our attention. By facing them, we reduce their power over us. Acknowledgement doesn't mean acting on every impulse. It means recognizing these impulses exist. It means understanding where they come from. This understanding gives us choice. We can decide how to respond rather than reacting unconsciously. The power of acknowledgement extends beyond personal growth. It enhances our empathy and understanding of others. When we recognize our own flaws and struggles, we're more forgiving of others. We see the humanity in everyone, even those we disagree with. Section 6, integration for growth, embracing the whole self. Integration is the ultimate goal of shadow work. It's about bringing our shadow aspects into conscious awareness. We don't eliminate these traits, we learn to express them in healthy ways. This process leads to what Jung called individuation. It's becoming our full, authentic selves. Integration doesn't happen overnight. It's a lifelong journey, but each step brings rewards. We become more balanced. Our energy isn't tied up in repression. We can direct it towards creativity and growth instead. Our relationships improve as we become more authentic and understanding. As we integrate our shadow, we often discover hidden strengths. The anger we've repressed might become healthy assertiveness. Our fear might transform into caution and wisdom. Even traits we consider negative can have positive aspects when properly integrated. This process of integration leads to greater self-acceptance. We stop fighting against parts of ourselves. We learn to work with all aspects of our psyche. This self-acceptance radiates outward. It improves our relationships and our interaction with the world at large. Section 7, Tools and Techniques for Shadow Work. Shadow work isn't easy, but there are many tools and techniques to help us along the way. Journaling is a powerful method. It allows us to explore our thoughts and feelings without judgment. We can write about our dreams, our reactions, our hidden desires. This process often reveals patterns we hadn't noticed before. Meditation and mindfulness practices are also valuable for shadow work. They help us observe our thoughts and emotions without getting caught up in them. We can notice when our shadow is acting up. We can watch our reactions without immediately acting on them. Art and creative expression can be powerful tools for shadow work. Drawing, painting, or sculpting can bring subconscious material to the surface. We might be surprised by what emerges. Music, dance, and drama can also help us express and explore shadow aspects. Therapy is another valuable tool for shadow work. A skilled therapist can help us navigate this complex terrain. They can provide a safe space to explore difficult emotions. They can offer techniques and insights to aid our journey. Group therapy or support groups can also be helpful. They allow us to see our shadow reflected in others. Section 8, The Shadow in Relationships. Understanding others through self-awareness. Our shadow doesn't just affect us individually, it plays a huge role in our relationships. Often, the traits we find most irritating in others are reflections of our own shadow. This is projection in action. By recognizing this, we can turn conflicts into opportunities for growth. Romantic relationships often bring our shadow to the forefront. We might be attracted to someone who embodies our repressed traits. Or we might constantly clash with our partner over issues that reflect our own insecurities. Understanding our shadow can help us navigate these dynamics more skillfully. In parent-child relationships, our shadow can have profound effects. We might project our unfulfilled dreams onto our children. Or we might react strongly to behaviors that remind us of our own repressed traits. Awareness of these dynamics can help us parent more consciously and compassionately. Even in professional relationships, the shadow plays a role. A boss might be overly critical due to their own insecurities. A colleague might sabotage team efforts due to unacknowledged competitiveness. By understanding these shadow dynamics, we can create healthier work environments. Section 9, Cultural Perspectives on the Shadow from Myths to Modern Psychology. The concept of the shadow isn't unique to modern psychology. It appears in various forms across cultures and throughout history. In many myths and religions, we see the theme of light versus darkness. These stories often represent the internal struggle with our shadow selves. In Eastern philosophies, we find concepts like the Taoist yin and yang. This symbol represents the integration of opposing forces. It's a beautiful representation of shadow integration. In Buddhism, we find practices aimed at observing and accepting all aspects of the self. Western literature is full of shadow themes. Think of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, or the concept of the doppelganger. These stories explore the idea of the hidden self. They show the consequences of denying or repressing parts of our nature. In modern pop culture, we see the shadow concept in superhero stories. The hero often grapples with a dark side or faces a villain who represents their shadow. These stories resonate because they reflect our own internal struggles. They show us the power of integrating all aspects of ourselves. Section 10. The Journey Ahead. Continuing personal growth through shadow work. Shadow work is not a destination, it's an ongoing journey. As we grow and change, new aspects of our shadow may emerge. Life experiences can bring hidden parts of ourselves to light. This is why shadow work is a lifelong process. The rewards of this journey are immense. We gain greater self-awareness and self-acceptance. We improve our relationships. We tap into creativity and energy we didn't know we had. We become more whole, more authentic versions of ourselves. But this journey isn't always easy. It requires courage to face parts of ourselves we've long denied. It requires patience as we work through deep-seated patterns. It requires compassion for ourselves and others as we stumble and learn. As we continue on this path, we contribute to something larger than ourselves. By integrating our own shadow, we help heal collective shadows. We become more understanding and compassionate towards others. We contribute to a world of greater awareness and authenticity. The journey into the shadow is not just personal growth, it's a step towards healing our world.